So please note that the meeting will be recorded, and we will make it available only to the PED project. So it will be an internal recording. Please also, for those of you who didn't yet do it, hover over your video screen and push the three dots to change your name and type in your name, but also your project, so we actually know who is around the table. Okay, yeah, thank you, Dieter. So today's deep dive will focus on how we can mobilize PED stakeholders and how we can promote social justice. Dieter and Enza will guide us through the discussion, but before I give the floor to Enza and Dieter, I would quickly like to give some introductory words. Yes, thank you. Like most of you probably know, the PED Transition Pathway is part of the DUT partnership, and its goal is to initialize 100 PEDs by 2025. Of course, we are already in 2025. So at the end of this year, actually in the beginning of October, we will organize a PED conference to celebrate with all of you that we have accomplished this goal. But besides pointing out the aim of the PED Transition Pathway, I would also like to make the link to the first deep dive we did in December and remind you of the framework definition which has been developed, and to further explain what we understand what a PED is about. So for us, the core of a PED is about, well, on the one side, energy efficiency, energy flexibility, and energy production. But of course, PED is also more of a holistic concept, integrating various aspects of social, economic, and environmental sustainability. And for us, engagement and empowerment are key when we want to realize a PED. So these aspects will also be the focus point of today's deep dive. And next slide, please. Just a quick introduction to the PED ESF, so the Expert Support Facility. The ESF was established as part of the PED 2 call under GPI Urban Europe. It consists of 8 experts representing the 8 PED projects, and the ESF is managed by representatives of DUT, so that would be Jonas, Christoph, and myself. The purpose of the ESF is for experts to meet, to discuss and to exchange on what's happening in their projects, to find the synergies and overlaps, and to also see, well, how can we actually synthesize what's happening in these diverse projects, and to see how we can develop support materials to make this portfolio of PED solutions. We would like to transfer insights between the PED experts of all these projects to exchange on learnings and so on. But also we would like the experts to provide more input on the development of the PED transition pathway. Next slide, please. Yes, why did we start with these deep dives? Well, we met last year in Brussels, and there the need was expressed by the PED people in the over there in the conference in April, that there was a need to exchange more in depth between the PED actors on certain specific topics. So that's why, together with the ESF, we designed the deep dives for this year to dive into 5 different topics and to exchange our experiences, knowledge, and so on. So we've had a first deep dive in December, which was on the PED framework. Today we will be together to discuss about engagement and social aspects. And the coming months we will have 3 more PED deep dives. Next slide, please. So what is actually the goal of this deep dive? So we want to exchange our knowledge, but we also want to provide a short paper for each deep dive in which we discuss what's going on in these topics and what we actually discussed during this deep dive. So it will be a paper reflection on what's happening this afternoon. Next slide, please. And then I will hand over to Dieter to go through the agenda for this afternoon. Dieter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anneloes. Welcome everyone as well from my side. I'm Dieter Bruggeman. I'm a researcher at the Vrije Universiteit in Brussels. I'm part of the PED for All project and also ESF member for that project. So let's run over the schedule of this afternoon. We are now more or less finishing the welcome and the introduction to what these deep dives are. After this, we will move to a thematical introduction. So Enza and I will give you some reflections on some of the activities by the ESF on the social aspects of PEDs and PED implementation and so on. Then we moved to 4 project pitches. We asked 4 projects to pitch their experiences, some of their insights on the mobilization of stakeholders, the organization of stakeholders, how they address social issues of social justice. And after that, we will take a short break. There will also be a bit of time for questions on these projects, by the way. After the break, then we will organize a group discussion on 3 key questions on this theme of stakeholder management and social justice and the relation between them. After which we try to come to some plenary conclusions, and we'll also indicate how we're going to follow up on what we have done today. So let's start with the thematical introduction. If this slide once. Here we are. Okay, so the main question of today is, how can PED stakeholders be mobilized and organized to promote social justice? Maybe it's good to contextualize a bit from where this question comes from. So, as Anneloes has mentioned, the deep dives are organized or co-organized together with the ESF. And with the ESF, one of our main concerns from the beginning is to get a bit of an overview of everything which is happening on PED research within this GPI Urban Europe programs within the DUT partnership. And so from the start on, we have tried to map all the research activities, all the deliverables of the PED projects within these programs. How have we done that? We have each of the representatives of the projects have mapped what they were doing on this big Miro board. And we started categorizing those. We chose to categorize along the pestle dimensions that are the political, the economic, the social, the technological, the legal, and the environmental. Through discussion, we also decided to add the spatial to emphasize also the role of urban planning and urban design, for example. And we also added another category on methods and processes, as these were a bit underemphasized within the pestle, the classic pestle dimensions. So we did this mapping exercise in order to get a bit of grip on everything what was happening. You see the board I was talking about. But this was then translated, a bit rationalized as well into a tile set representing different dimensions and subdimensions PED research is carried out on. We hope this PED landscape on the one hand can visualize really what is going on within PED research, but on the other hand can also be a help for projects to represent themselves. So by adding the tiles of the dimensions they are working on, you get a kind of picture of what a project is about, and you can also see what the different projects are about. And of course, It's also a way of categorizing maybe deliverables, and in that way we can also build synergies and synthesis, because maybe some other project is doing things that are very interesting for your own project, and it makes it possible to find it. Or you need to work on, let's say, community engagement, and you can then look up what has already been researched, what already exists on that topic. And so in that way, synergies are built, or it becomes possible to work towards synthesis by having a view on everything which has to do with the environmental, for example. So also today, I would say we're working towards synthesis in a sense, as we try to bring together different voices, different insights on this topic of stakeholder mobilization, organization in relation to social justice. And this comes forth out of the social dimension, which is quite a big dimension, quite a diverse dimension. So here I list the 10 different subcategories that were identified within the dimension. As you can see, they go all kind of directions. But what are maybe 4 main takeaways that the ESF got out of this PET landscape? First and foremost, maybe, is that the social is really part and parcel of PET implementation. So almost all of the projects are undertaking activities that have to do with the social dimension of PETs. I think a lot of us would find that evident. Yet, of course, when you have to introduce PET to someone that doesn't know the concept, you often say, like, PET is this group of buildings which produce more renewable energy than they consume energy. So still there is this a bit more technical framing. So how can we emphasize maybe that the social is also part of PET? And I think in the draft new framework definition, I think it becomes much more clear, it becomes much more visible that it is also part of PET. Secondly, there is really a diversity of concerns and approaches which is grouped under the social dimension. And even when you then look at what is underneath these categories, you see that, like, all of these projects are researching how they can deal with social issues that have to do with PETs and PET implementation. So there is not just the recognition of the social as being a part of PET, but according to us, it's also that it's still very much seen as a challenge, and that there's no clear answer of how to then address social issues coming up within PET implementation. So still there is a lot of work to do within this dimension. A third takeaway is that a lot of the projects are really also involving PET stakeholders in their research and in the implementation and design of PETs. Of course, it is asked in the call for projects, but even then, a lot of projects emphasize how it is really necessary to do that, because the PET as a concept is quite clear, but then you have to translate it into a real context, and then participation or even co-production and co-creation are really seen as key in order to translate this concept into real life context. But this, of course, also leads to very important questions on who can be involved, who should be involved, who can discuss what, who can decide on what, etc. So these are typical questions coming up when dealing with PET as a social construct as well. And fourth, PET is within the social clearly seen as a process. It's a transformation over time rather than a simple fix. PET as a process means that you start from a situation and that you change this into another situation where perhaps different conditions apply. And a lot of work within the social dimension really has to do then with what would it mean for the people living and working within these new conditions? How can they cope or deal with these changing conditions? How can we accompany this process? And again, I think this is something which is much more explicit in the new framework definition. But on the new framework definition and the social, Enza can tell us something more.
Thank you, Dieter, to introduce our topic of today, the social dimension and also the social justice. It seems such a big issues and a little bit of black box. So let's go a bit into this shortly, and then we will discuss furtherly with the projects and also in the breaking rooms. My name is Enza Alessandrello. I'm an associate professor in urban planning in Aalborg University in the Department of Sustainability and Planning. I would like to give a sort of provocative ideas from our discussions that will take over hereafter, and starting this in this dimension of the PED framework 3.0, in which the core issues seems to really to evolve around bringing stakeholders group together. PED is also a catalyst of how we bring different type of stakeholders together in doing this achievement of the positive energy district, but it's also about cooperation closely with the steering group, with sort of subgroups, with the sustainability goals, involve policy level, target groups, utilize new ideas, feedback from different sort of communities, and also include a very broad range of perspectives. So we have this social dimension that is more and more integrated. This is a social political, social economical, social spatial. Yet it still is very much about how we frame the background motivation, why we do PED, exactly what Dieter was framing at the beginning, how we bring this motivation, this background, this knowledge that we need to bring about. Can you change the slide, Dieter? Thank you. But reality is maybe different. And I use this slide I usually present in one of the first lectures in urban planning in Aalborg. And this because we are dealing with weak problems, and we are talking about this since a long time. This paper of Ritter Weber is more and more quoted in every kind of contemporary planning. So the stakeholders might not agree. We have a complex type of judgment about how PED maybe try to solve some of the problems, crucial one actually in the energy transition, largely in a global perspective, but especially European one. There is no clear stopping rules. There is a kind of sense that there is no right or wrong solutions, maybe good and bad ones, but in which is very difficult to evaluate. There is also no really clear objective measures of success. We are working with that, but still there is really different takes we can have in how to measure this success in context. And alternatives are also be discovered because, as Dieter also advanced, PED is not a fix for all solution, but try to solve some problems. And there is also strong ethical, moral, political, and professional dimensions, plural one, that intertwine in these aspects. And then, of course, this is PED try to solve problems, but also there is all better and worse solutions that maybe are consequential to what PED try to solve. So I wanted to go in the next slide, Dieter. Thank you. So my provocative take here is to give a bit an urban planning perspective here, because of course, when we take PEDs as a source, as a center as an inspiration also to operate the urban transition, we are operating in a highly complex and urban context. And of course, we have still a lot of rational planning in doing that. So way in which we prioritize some of the scientific and technical knowledge that relate to that. But of course, in planning, we had a lot of critiques about which type of holistic planning we want to achieve when we do planning in the right way. And I think it fits very much in this idea of PEDs, because this holistic understanding maybe makes us too much confusion of where to starting point. And I mean, this is Jan Jacobs talking from the 60s that say maybe we cannot take this as an holistic issue. Maybe we have to stay in the little aspects of the everyday life of people. So maybe a provocation one is how actually we take this perspective of holistic and still try to see the changes that happen in the everyday life. Then knowledge is shaped by power relationship, and Dieter was talking about co-production, and indeed is very much about in the social dimension who is participating in this process making, who is allowed to access to these processes, for whom these processes are coming from, and the fact that, as Patsy Ely talked about, there is also a futures and our futures that are more path contingent. So they are not completely path dependent. So of course, the PEDs is also applied to different kind of context, and these relational threats, these relational mobilities are more about specific experiences that maybe feed up more general rules rather than to start from very universal statements about phenomena. This is how actually PEDs intertwine with different type of issues, both in energy, but also in the urban part. And therefore, the issue of the social dimension also trigger us as planners, as managers, our inventors, co-creators, and whatever professional skills we think to us when we make PED, is our position in these processes. So of course we can advocate to have PEDs because these PEDs will make our life better. We make our ideas from more climate neutral cities more efficient. But we have also, of course, to be activists maybe in this. But it's also important to think about what is our inspiration to social justice, what is our position into that. That is the reflexive stance that maybe we need always to have when we think and make PEDs in a perspective of social and social justice and social dimension of it. Dieter, the next one. Thank you. And this one is as we think very often about stakeholders' involvement, because we talk of the fact that maybe some actors have a direct influence on the action, on situation, can do something. They are more important than others. We have also some part that is indicate stakeholders, individuate stakeholders as a part of interests. So the actors that are affected. So many times we say who is winning, who is losing in this particular situation. Also actors that give legitimacy to these processes. actors that maybe have recognized rights, responsibilities, revolve, but also that give legitimacy, especially when we make participation, active participation of different types of actors, give legitimacy to the process. There is also another important layer here that is about the knowledge, because of course we have different type of knowledge in PEDs, of course the technical and scientific one, but also we have a lot of local knowledge and maybe knowledge that is not enough to bring PEDs in being. For example, if we have a different type of starting energy communities that have potential for PEDs, maybe there is another layer of knowledge that is required to really really transitionate this idea of the PEDs further. Next one. So the positive potential of PEDs is provocative here, how we can interpret that positivity, not just as a technical or scientific knowledge, but also as a social dimension. How we could think PEDs as agencies for social justice. And of course, social justice is some big issue and sometimes, as I said, black box that we cannot just think that we will reach it. We probably need to be inspired by that. And of course, in relation to the different pillars of how we understand social justice, we have this different procedural justice that is more related to participation, to the process itself, and to the fact that maybe there are marginalized voices, neighborhoods and urban areas and communities that need to be taken into account in decision making for PEDs. There is a part that is more distributive justice. So the equitability dimension, what is the benefits of the energy infrastructure in the urban areas, the energy access in the urban system, the equity and the quality needs in relation to the different spatial dimension as well. And what actually in the energy justice has been becoming a very interesting issue, that is the restorative and the iterative justice. So how actually we repair past and ongoing harm that are maybe caused by energy system and decisions that have been done in the past in the urban context, and how we could try to restore a more iterative justice with information, feedback, trust, dignity, and respect about this. And of course, this framework has been built up a little bit in the idea that there is a lot of research here. I synthesized this with the energy justice framework. But also, if you click again, Dieter, we have also a lot about talking about the social justice framework, and especially with an evolving discussion about how we can consider social and special justice in cities. And this is becoming a very complex, you can go on, Dieter. It's a complex issues to go into this different categorization about the different dimensions of social justice and in PEDs justice, I would say. A short summary here. PEDs are processes of co-creation. Dieter give an example about this. Can be a form of agency that can trigger societal processes. While we are doing this, we are also maybe hoping to rebalancing some of the power relations, having an importance of inclusion, and addressing together the urban and energy vulnerabilities. PEDs can also inspire social just processes, integrating in neighborhood, and maybe have more attention to these marginalized and vulnerability communities in the energy transition. PEDs are also traveling ideas, so we need to really work on the experience rather than in too much general rules, and also have the potential for the urban transition if we take this more inclusive participation, and maybe hoping to make more an active citizenship for the energy transition.
Okay, thank you, Enza, for this introduction. Also, already maybe anticipating the discussion we'll have next. So I think maybe we made some more provocative statements. I'm interested to know some of the ideas of the audience, of course. But next to the work from the ESF, mainly reflections on the results and the activities, we're also very much interested in what's going on in the field, in the projects themselves, given the theme of stakeholder management in relation to social justice. And that's why we invited 4 projects or 4 actors in projects to reflect on this question. And the first one that's going to pitch, the pitches will take about 5 minutes each, and then we hopefully have some time for questions still. The first one that's going to pitch is Lieselot from White Architecture. Lieselot, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, at White Architecture, we have developed a process called Positive Energy Planning Process, and I'm going to show some examples of how we're working. You can change, please. And we see energy as an urban development issue. So if you start to look at the energy issue very early and very broad together with the stakeholders, you get a better and more sustainable result when you're planning your city or making it better. Next, please. So I'm going to take you through this process very quickly, and the steps are not, you don't have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can interact in between them, but this is a way to show it, and also to show it in a circle because it's going around and it's getting better and better. Please, next. So our positive energy planning process is a collaborative process for the development of and implementation of strategic, holistic, tailored positive energy roadmaps, which have a high degree of acceptance amongst key stakeholders. And this is really the thing about it, that we're working together to create these positive energy districts. And since there are no laws that says that we have to work with sustainability, we have to do it because we want to do it, and we want to do it together, and we want to have fun doing it. So this is what we're trying to do together with the actors. And you can go on, please. And we have ongoing projects, 3 ongoing, we participate in 3 ongoing research projects: Digital Twin for PED, PED Stepwise, and Just PEP. And we also developed the process in the PED ID project. And we have also commercial clients that I will show you some examples from also. Please go on. So when you want to build support for the process, we're working very tightly together with the actors in the group. Please, next slide. And yeah, we can go on to the next slide. This is one example, and I wanted to show you which stakeholders we have in the actor group, or in the core team, as we say. So we work very closely with the core team in the beginning to get everyone to feel safe together and to work with this future vision of the PED. And when we know each other and we want to do this together, then we can go out to speak to the other stakeholders. Next, please. And this is an area we're working with, just showing you that there are existing buildings and there are future buildings. And then we have to think about how to work with the stakeholders in the existing buildings. That means the tenants in these buildings, or maybe a shop or a food store, and helping them to save energy. Or in the future buildings, learning and teaching about what is possible about energy efficient and making these buildings become energy positive or energy neutral. Next, please. And this is the Malmö Stadion area that we're working, and I wanted to show you on the next slide, please, how we work with the stakeholder mapping. And so the core team that I wrote down here, that's the municipality, that's a football club, that's an energy company, a university, and White Architects as process manager. We work together to think about who we should involve and who we should inform. And yeah, we can go to the next one. So here we have to set the level of representation and participation, and we make a communication strategy to understand how we can be transparent and how people can understand and how we can include them. Next, please. And also we make visualizations and to try to show the future. Next, please. And then we go into create the vision. Next, please. Yeah, we can go on because the minutes are going on here. And we create the PED vision together. And in this case, there is energy company, real estate company, and the municipality. And here in Malmö Stadion area, we have landed in this vision. The Malmö Stadion area is an energetic hub empowering people. Sports and knowledge flourish, and through collaboration, we create the world's first energy positive arena area. Please, next. So this is how we work to make everyone safe and to brag about what we want to do. And we want to be proud about it. Yes, we can go on. And as well as doing technical simulations, please, you can go on. Here you're looking at solar potential. We also, yeah, thanks, great. We want to look who are our stakeholders, and we will go out there and meet them and try to understand how we can meet them to identify their needs and make decisions out of this. Very important to look at the drivers and perspectives and use inclusive methods. And this is just one more example of how to work with dialogues in Kiruna when we want to move the city. I love this picture. Okay, please go on. Yeah, and then we have to produce the roadmap. Yeah, you can go on, please. And I took this example where we are in Göteborg, working together with Göteborg municipality and the building owners that are municipal, and how we should try to make this area climate neutral and energy positive. Next, please. So this is the way that PEP process works. And then when we have planned everything, we have to support the implementation phase. It's very important. And we have to encourage and support behavior change and continuously build knowledge, motivation, and capacity among stakeholders and residents. Next, please. And then, of course, follow up, monitor, and verify all the time what we have decided to do. Next, please. And then scale up and replicate and communicate about what we have done and what we have achieved. Yes, please. So you can read about all this in some of our reports, so we can give you links to this afterwards. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lieselot. It's an interesting presentation on how such a project unfolds. We still have a bit of time for questions. I cannot see you, so I'm counting on Christophe, I think, with saying who can ask questions.
Anyone immediate questions to Lieselot and the approach? you can always, if you have immediate thoughts or comments or questions, you can also just write in the chat, and we can come back to that later. So you don't need to kind of appear publicly. Emina.
Thank you very much, Lieselot, for this presentation. It's really nice to see how you develop together in consortia this model. But what I'm wondering is actually if you're looking for the more to further development of this concept, and do you have some ideas or already get the feedback which you need to maybe put in the next step in development of the model?
Yeah, actually, in the Just PEP project, we are adding the social aspects to the PEP process. So that's ongoing now. And also, I imagine that we can use this process also to make climate smart and social equal areas. So you can add other sustainability aspects to the process too.
Yes, and maybe one additional question about the link to this, because we talk very much for mission-driven approach and work in different for different activities and even thematical issue. Do you have some synergies which we can link to the, for example, our national work on national development, national climate city contract?
Yes, I
and
think that
how
would be great.
we can link that.
I think it would be great. I mean, in Järfälla, where we've been working, they make a contract with the actors in the city we're working with, or the how do you say, stadsdel, community. So they make contracts with people. And also I have an idea now, I saw in Great Britain and Wales, they have contracts with private people too, to contribute to the change.
Climate neutrality. Okay, thank you.
Thank you
very much for
Thank you.
excellent presentation and answers.
Thank you very much.
We have one hand from Baha. I guess we can take that, Dieter.
Yeah. Maybe
Baha, please.
last question then. Yeah.
Yeah. Just rather short. For the bigger discussions, we have the breakouts. Yeah.
Do we have time for discussion now or just questions then?
Discussions is more in the breakouts.
Okay.
This is rather for questions or short comments, maybe.
Just a little question comment for Enza and Lise. Now, Enza has urged us to look at the power relations in urban planning. Now, we shouldn't forget that we have an incumbent regime of power relations, of course. And as we try to come out of our shell with the PED, what are we against? So when Enza shows the various parts of the pie, the dormant and the ones who can't actually even come out and speak, and the others, are we looking at ownership, for example, relations here also, and how to analyze them in different countries? This is also critical, isn't it? If we're going to be enabling, empowering, and recasting power, we'll be looking at changing ownership patterns then. And is this not something really quite an important block in the advancement of this? Just a question and together with a comment.
I think it would be great to this in the break room discussions, Baha. I think it's relevant to keep this into our minds, of course, when we see in the different contexts and the different projects how they face this. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Enza and Baha. I suggest we move forward to the pitch by Citizens for PED by Laura Grazzini. Laura?
Yes, thank you.
Here you go. Yep.
Thank you very much.
So I would discuss about the topic of the discussion today in relation to some reflections which come from our project Citizens for PED. Can you go next, please? Our project aims to contribute to PED development in existing neighborhoods, and in particular it tries to focus on renewable energy communities as enabling mechanism for just transition. We have selected the 4 neighborhoods as case studies, and we selected them with very challenging features for just transitions, including a predominance of social housing and low-income communities in some of them. We have thus established 4 living labs in each neighboring, one in each neighborhood, to try to co-develop with local communities solutions for PED transition and to kickstart broader regeneration initiatives. And the 4 case studies are 2 in Brussels, La Rue in Anderlecht, and U Square, 1 in Vienna, Kalembendorf, and 1 in Bari, São Paulo neighborhood. Can you move next, please? Yes. So first of all, we asked ourselves which stakeholders. So we performed a stakeholder analysis to identify, characterize, and categorize stakeholders, to identify also which kind of influence, which kind of role they may play in PED development, and to understand the motivation for change for each of them, and to discuss how to best manage local energy transition. We characterize and categorize stakeholders on the basis of resources they have, so which may be material, financial, but also in terms of capabilities, including relational capabilities, management capabilities, technological capabilities, and so on, and the level of engagement and interest in the topic. And through that, we constituted a stakeholder network. If you just do 1 click, another box will appear. And this was done by the project partners in Austria. And therefore, on the basis of this identification of stakeholders, on the right box, you will see the different categories of stakeholders we analyzed in each neighborhood. We then devised the specific methodology to use to involve them and to reach them. And we particularly put a lot of emphasis on involvement of residents and of the most disadvantaged groups. Can you go next, please? Yes. So this is the first neighborhood, the one about which I would like to tell you something. It is the São Paulo neighborhood in Bari. Bari is in southern Italy. And that neighborhood is a quite segregated part of the city, at the margin of the city, in between a logistic area on the right, and on the right you see also the industrial area, and on the left there is the airport. And as you see also from the picture, from the facades of the buildings, it's a very, very poor and marginalized area. It hosts about 30,000 people. It has been built after the Second World War in different slots, and it's composed by public houses and social houses. And in red in the center, you see the target neighborhood, which was about 2,000 people, and it's all made of public housing. You can go next, please. And those people were very, very hard to reach because of distrust, high poverty rate, cultural barriers, and social stigma. We have also on board as project partner the social housing company, which was actually keen on discussing the development of a renewable energy community. And therefore, the point was how to involve these residents. So we used a stepwise approach. First of all, we had some focus group with NGOs and civil organizations. We were likely very lively in the area. You see on the left a map, and in orange you see the location of several NGOs and civil associations, civil organizations. We used, we contacted them. We had different interviews and focus group to try to have them as intermediaries between us and the residents. The next one, please. Then, as a second step, we relied on schools. There are several schools in the neighborhood, and we developed some workshops with students. In total, we met about 200 students. We got in touch with 3 elementary schools, 2 classes each, and 3 secondary schools. And in this workshop, we did a short presentation on energy issues to students. We did a question game, how much green you are, and then we asked them to make some drawings, identifying a transition, an energy transition, a more sustainable future for their neighborhood. And basically this touch with students was very important because they could act as ambassador for energy transition within their families. Next one, please. Then, as a third step, also thanks to the engagement of schools and of students, we distributed a questionnaire through the families of all students, so not only of the 200 students, of many more students in the São Paulo area. And we developed 24 questions. Those questions were targeted first to understand the heating and cooling systems in place in the houses, because some of the houses don't even have an heating and cooling system because it's an individual choice, and several of them are really at risk of fuel poverty. A second part of the questionnaire was to try to understand the energy consumption and also to identify possible risks of fuel poverty. And then we tried to understand the level of interest for renewable resources and renewable energy communities. And then the first stop, which is ongoing, I mean, it's forthcoming, we are planning it now, to have a temporary gazebo in some afternoon to meet people and to try to mobilize them, to involve them in the workshop activities, to raise awareness on PEDs and on the role the citizens can play in the transition, and creating a link with the project, because we are then developing in the Living Labs activities for the development of the PED action plan for the neighborhood. The next, please. Then in Austria, our partners developed different activities. The neighborhood is quite different from the one we have in Italy. It's about 500 households. It's a mix of heritage buildings, houses built from the 60s and 80s, and new ones. And there is a property mix, including social housing. Can you go next, please? And here they adopted different formats to meet residents and to involve people, especially local residents. They had coordination groups with some key players which acted to mobilize as key persons in the social activities. Then they have Forum Klimadorf, which was aimed to information and engagement. They had working group meetings for activity planning for specific issues, and the Summer Fest for awareness raising. And they realized that they got a very strong commitment for key players, which were organized in this coordination group. They received support from several external experts. They invited to come to the village, to this neighborhood, to emphasize the importance of the topic. And the mobilization of residents is still ongoing, and involvement, the main difficulties in involvement of residents was found in the fact that several buildings are under heritage protection, so it's not technically really that easy. Can go next, please. Yeah, there are just some pictures from Forum Klimadorf and the Summer Fest. Then this is the last case I just talk about, is one of the 2 Belgian cases. It's in La Rue, in the municipality of Anderlecht, and the entry point in this case was the Collective La Rue, which is a very active and dynamic community association whose goal was energy renovation of homes, the implementation of collecting heating networks, and promoting anyway several initiatives for decarbonizing residents' lifestyles. Next, please. And actually, different methods for stakeholder engagement were used, from in-depth interview with key informants, mobilization through the collective LaRue, and focus groups. And actually, several technical options were discussed, ranging from group renovation of houses, which was promoted by the collective LaRue because to speed up the procedure, reduce costs, and so on. But it proved to be difficult due to heritage protection of buildings and high costs connected to this renovation. Then there was some interest for the use of URDF funds, which could give a very high percentage of grant. But in this case, some social justice issues were also underlined because actually those the poorer, those most in need of support couldn't afford pre-financing. So basically they were excluded by these possibilities. Then also district heating was discussed, although it proved to be very difficult for technical reasons, and then other options are still ongoing. And in conclusion, just also next slide, which shows which are the project partners which are working in the different countries. Basically, we, as Ensa was saying before, PED transition should really be framed as a path contingent issue process. And actually, as you saw in the different neighborhoods, we faced different challenges. The context were were very challenging for different reasons. And also we encountered the different justice implications. And therefore, as you saw, we had to devise methodologies which could be found suitable and appropriate to face the peculiarities of the context in terms of cultural features, socioeconomic features, and technical situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Actually, I'm sitting at U Square, so your fourth case is also represented in some way.
Yeah.
We have time for one short question. Don't know if there are questions. Well, and if not, we can keep them for the group discussion, of course. And so then we can proceed to Lasse from FlexPosts.
Yeah.
The floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, so my name is Lasse Schødt-Nørgaard. I'm a PhD fellow at Aalborg University, and I've been following the FlexPost project for these past 2 years. Next slide, please. Yeah, so for a bit of context, the two cases that we have been working with in FlexPosts are Aalborg East in Aalborg, Denmark, and De Svette in Leeuwarden in the Netherlands. To explain a bit about the cases, Aalborg East is a bit of a mixed neighborhood of both industry and normal neighborhoods of living, housing, where De Svette is more of an industrial area. So they're a bit different, and they're also quite different in size. These maps are not to scale at all. They're just there to show where the case areas are in the general relation to the rest of the cities. Yes. So, if you can go back just really quick. Yeah. So just to say that in the Danish case, we've been more explorative, looking into actors that could be potential stakeholders, since this is a very, very, very large area to look into for PED conversion. This means we've approached more strategic actors that could help us mobilize PED efforts, where in the Dutch case, it's been more connected to grid congestion and solving this issue locally. So they've had more, or in this case, we've had more direct engagement with stakeholders who need this problem solved. Yes. Next, please. And then the involvement process has been a mix of these semi-structured interviews and workshops, where again, in the Danish case, it's mostly been related to figuring out what the barriers are for these different actors and what it would take to get them engaged in PEDs. This is also why I included this poster down here to show that when we start out these interviews, we bring a poster along to actually talk about what is a positive energy district and what do you need to know in order to have this discussion with us. Yeah, where again, in the Dutch case, it has been more centered on this issue of grid congestion and figuring out how positive energy district can be a tool for solving the issue of grid congestion, and then having workshops around this. Yeah, next, please. So a few of the results we've had have been this general consensus that there's a strong potential in PED and the concept, but very much so in the Danish case, they wanted more clarification of what PED can do on, let's say, a political level. Is it something that can change decision making? And the graph on the right is there to show how we kind of try to situate the stakeholders in relation to each other to actually have an idea of how we need to engage with them as well. Yeah, and next, please. And this is then very similar for the Dutch case, where all the stakeholders have less of an interest in PED itself. But if we change the topic from PED to grid congestion again, then almost all of them move to the top right to become key stakeholders, because they are all interested in and have a relation to the solution of this issue. But for PED on a more general level, it becomes a bit more abstract. Most of the interest is, of both cases, I can say, lies in the further development of the PED and what it can actually contribute in, let's say, establishing energy hubs or sustainable business parks and providing new business cases. Next slide, please. So for this question of social justice issues, we've been a bit less focused on it because they are both quite industrial areas, so it's not necessarily directly related to the social justice within the area. But we have been looking at how to minimize, let's say, the impact of the PED and how to best align it with the local initiatives to help elevate the processes that are ongoing in these areas. Yeah. So the primary focus has been on this PED feasibility and how to align it with local initiatives. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Well, thank you, Lasse. Are there any questions for Lasse? We have some time. I cannot see if you raise your hands or if there's questions in the chat, so you will have to help me out.
No hands up.
Okay. We're all keeping our impressions and our questions for the discussion later. That's also a possibility, of course. In that case, I go to Griet from Co2PED. Griet,
yes,
please.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Indeed, so I'm last in a very nice row of presentations. Thank you to the ones that came before me. We are working on the Co2PED project. Maybe if you move to the next slide, you can see that we have partners in 4 countries, and in each of the countries we're working in 2 case study neighborhoods. And the focus of the project is to work on a just and inclusive energy transition in vulnerable or underprivileged neighborhoods across Europe. And in this presentation, I'll focus on the Belgian cases. Yes, you can move to the next slide. Thank you. And in each of the countries, we also have a specific perspective. So there are 4 dimensions or tracks of the social aspects of energy transition that we explore. which you can see on this slide. In Belgium, we are focusing on the bottom-up development of collective energy actions in these two neighborhoods. Next. Just to situate, so in each country we have two typologies, so to say. So on the one hand, there is a social housing neighborhood with a high-rise building typology. In this case, in Ghent, it's the Watersportbaan neighborhoods. It's a neighborhood where a very diverse population lives that are confronted with many different vulnerabilities that have to do with unemployment, education, but also well-being challenges that people have to deal with. It's a neighborhood with a high-rise social housing typology, so renters, and where the public space, but also the neighborhood functions require a lot of work to be improved. And ongoing is also the exploration of a large-scale district heating system, because there's a lot of big campuses and big players around the social housing site. On the other hand, there's the Sluizenke neighborhood, which is a very dense urban area with a mixed typology, so a combination of homeowners and renters, social housing, private housing, and so on. A neighborhood that is composed of many different spatial fragments, also including hospital, new infill developments, and so on. So where also gentrification is ongoing, and you can also say it's an arrival neighborhood with a lot of newcomers as well. Next. So who is involved in our process? Because we take this quite bottom-up perspective, we work a lot with neighborhood actors as well as sort of intermediaries to enter into the neighborhood. So social organizations, different, for example, the integration agency that works with newcomers, the neighborhood meeting centers, but also the hospitals, the healthcare centers, and so on. And with different parts of the urban administration as well. So not only the urban renewal department and the climate and energy department, but also the neighborhood managers. So the people from the administration that have their feet on the ground, so to say, of the neighborhood. And in second instance, we are starting also to work with inhabitants after the first phase of exploration. Next. So we started the project last year in January, and we first took time to get to know the neighborhood through in-depth interviews with the neighborhood actors I just mentioned. After a while, we also decided to go each Tuesday to have our office in the neighborhood center, so to come in touch with the inhabitants and the neighborhood organizations in an informal way. And then last fall, we organized in each neighborhood a very intensive workshop week. So we were in the neighborhood all week long and went to different centers around the neighborhood to have workshops to really map all the challenges and opportunities. I will show you later more about that. And now we are in the stage of selecting in each neighborhood a specific space, which offers an opportunity to really work on the energy topic in relation to the needs of the local actors. Next. So, as I said, last fall, we had a workshop week in each of the neighborhoods. So every day of the week, we had 1 or 2 workshops with different specific neighborhood organizations. And we really tried to approach energy in a very broad sense, connecting it with daily practices of feeding, repairing, caring, working, learning, meeting, and engaging. So the idea was to lower the threshold for people to talk about energy as a topic, because it can often come across as a very technical and difficult thing. But by approaching it through these daily practices, we try to make it accessible for different people, and also to connect it with their needs or goals as an organization. For example, for the hospital, of course, we started from the idea of caring and what energy do you need to do that caring work. With other, like a food initiative, we started from, okay, how is food connected with energy, and where can we find opportunities to start from and to develop collective energy initiatives around that. Next. these dialogues, we did that based on maps. So we mapped all the insights and quotes and challenges and opportunities that came out of the interviews and the workshops, connected them to specific places in the neighborhood to really identify also opportunities for us to start working and developing partnership with these organizations. Next, so that's the example for Sluizen as well. So the colors are the different practices that you can see, and we always try to identify the connection with energy. Yes, next. So out of this analysis, we could also better understand what are the social justice issues that are at stake. So in the Watersportbaan, it turned out that there is this bigger debate or trajectory of the large-scale district heating opportunity that's there with the big players, so the hospital, the university campus, the city, the water cleaning plant. But actually the social housing inhabitants are not aware of this ongoing process, and their voice is also not part of the discussion. And at the same time, there is a renovation master plan that's being made by the social housing company that has a lot of work and puts a lot of effort, of course, in making the buildings, the patrimony more sustainable and fossil free. But at the same time, the daily reality of these inhabitants, all the practices that they develop to cope with their energy vulnerability, and the skills that they also have, the knowledge that they have about this topic, is not really recognized or also not really taken up into this bigger scale renovation process. So we decided that this will be our goal, is to make their realities and insights more visible towards different professional stakeholders. In Sluizen, the biggest inequality has to do with the housing status of people, so homeowners, but also emergency buyers that don't have the capacity to renovate, or renters or social renters. And they, of course, experience inequality in terms of access to renovation, but also to renewable energy. And we also see that in how they are represented in the urban renewal process. So some people really take opportunities to get budget and so on to develop ideas for the future of their neighborhoods, while there's also people with a migrant background and newcomers that have a very different relation with ongoing gentrification process in the neighborhood. So there we took the opportunity to try and develop strategies to engage with newcomers on collective energy strategies in the neighborhood, and to try and connect social organizations that work with this target group with organizations that focus on energy or renovation. So to develop new kinds of collaborations. Next. So that's what we are doing now. So we were inspired also by a lot of examples in the Netherlands and other places where really a physical place in the neighborhood makes all the difference. So we identified a building block where we could also develop a physical space to discuss the transformation of this building block, and to test strategies to talk about energy and to work on energy with newcomers in the neighborhood. So to connect an existing social infrastructure with this energy transition challenge on a systemic level. Next. So one of the things we want to try and do there is to continue what we did in a previous project where we developed different personas. So really to understand the renovation behavior of different types of households. So it's like different archetypes. But we now we specifically want to look at different types of underprivileged households in the neighborhood of Sluizen-Gottorp, and to see what their decision-making process is regarding energy or renovation, and to see with the local organizations how their standard approaches could be adapted and fine-tuned towards these more hard-to-reach target groups. That's the next slide, I think. Yeah, so that's really mapping out in detail how people deal with energy in their daily life, and see how neighborhood organizations can tap into this. Well, that's the end of my story. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greet, for this insight in the Go2PED project. I see there's still a bit of time for a short question, if there are some. I'm not sure if there is a question.
There's compliments in the chat.
Yeah,
okay.
just wanted to
That's
say it is
awesome.
really so great presentations. It's a super collection. At some point, I will come back to you to ask you if it's okay to make these kind of videos public, because it's really like a teaching exercise. But yeah, not for now. Thank you.
Well, thank all of the presenters indeed. I see we're only 10 minutes beyond beyond the schedule. So let's still take a break. Let's take a 5-minute break. And so be here a bit after 10 to 3 back, and then we'll move into a group discussion. So stick with us, but also enjoy 5 minutes to reflect on everything you've heard. See you soon. Just have to find the right slide now. Then Enza, it's again to you.
Yes, perfect. So welcome back. And it was very nice presentations today with different variability on how different projects work with stakeholders, of course, recruitment, mobilization, organization, and then how we could promote social justice while doing that. We have spread some a short survey with Mentimeter before this meeting. So we want to give a result about the inputs that we get from there, just to start up our conversation that follow up in the breaking room. Dieter, do you want to change the slide? Yeah. So we could get more responses about this, but what we get with this is that stakeholder engagement is very important or a key issue in many projects. So we have a very high awareness that when we engage different type of stakeholders, we have also different type of dynamics in the projects and the PEDs, in PEDs shaping. Is also an important task, but not a key question for some projects. Once has not planned as a key issue, but increasingly become one. And zero said that is not the focus of my project. So stakeholder engagement and how we think to engage stakeholders, the methods, and also how relevant it is to engage them in the PED process is important. So also we provocate this discussion about the social justice in PED projects. There is an awareness about the absolutely key for successful transformation. But there are also minor results on the key consideration, among others, like environmental impact or economic viability. And also that there is also minor attention to the fact that there is like a second-rate importance in face of energy and climate crisis. But the most important issue is that social justice is becoming one of the key aspects in the PED projects. And some of the projects, as you have seen in the presentation, is also becoming more advanced in these aspects, mobilizing citizens and intermediary organization to reach citizens about this specific aspect. We ask you to elaborate some responses to the previous questions, and we had quite interesting ones. Without stakeholder involvement, won't be any action on the local level. Only with intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, a viable activity can endure. Was an interesting one. There is also a point on the residents. So residents are mostly consumers. If they are succeeded in decarbonizing our cities, residents need to see themselves as a part of the solution. They need to change from consumers to prosumers. This is not a new discussion about the prosumer stuff, but it's really much more really evolving in this idea of the active citizenship in mobilize PEDs in the energy transition. There is an issue here about social acceptance. So co-design of policies, strategies, and spaces are fundamental for the feasibility and good fit of any PED project. And another one about the stakeholder engagement, and also looking at the building awareness and knowledge of what a PED is and can do, because this is also a part that is important, how we informed stakeholders about the interest in PED, what PED can do. And another comment is on the stakeholder engagement when it comes to co-design and decision-making processes in planning. So, and this comment brings this idea of the different levels of participation that, of course, matters in PED processes as well. So now we could start with a group discussion. I think we are warm enough on full of ideas and thoughts, both from our provocative thinking, but also with the projects pitches that we have. So we will focus in 3 mainly group discussions with 3 breakout rooms. One about stakeholder management, the other one in inclusion, and the third one about social justice. So we will have like an individual brainstorming, followed by reflections, and we will facilitate some joint discussions in the rooms. Anneluz, Christoph, Dieter, and myself will facilitate it within the room, and then we will have reporters that will take notes, and we have Laura, Nicholas, and Martin that will take this task. These 3 topics, stakeholder management, inclusion, and social justice, focus in specific questions, but are quite large. So it's not a yes or no answer to that. So the stakeholder management is about how to organize stakeholders. And with this, we mean people that have a stake, but also means, materials that can be involved in PEDs, in PEDs to realize the urban energy transition. The inclusion part is how might we ensure that the PEDs embrace the variety of urban lifestyles and offer people an active role in the energy transition. And then we have the big one on the social justice that is more visionary, maybe towards the future. So how we might ensure that PEDs promote a just energy transition where nobody is left behind. So all of them are organized in different components, in different elements, stress different components of how we actually draw our social sphere and the social urban dimension in the PED landscape.
Okay, thank you, Enza. We'll now indeed move into the 3 breakout rooms. You'll get to choose which room you want to go to. If this is not too unbalanced, you can just stay in the room of your preference. A link has been shared to the Miro board we will also use to structure our discussion. So please choose a room and then also go to the Miro board and search on the Miro board for the panel of the group of your choice. So stakeholder management, inclusion, or social justice. And then we will meet again in like 40 minutes to come back to have a plenary conclusion. Caro, if you want, you can.
Right, so now everyone should be able to choose a room that they want to join. In the bottom bar, there's a symbol that says breakout sessions. And if you click that, you should see the 3 options and then just join one of them. If you have any questions, let me know.
And maybe if you see kind of the overview and you're not sure what to choose the ones where are the least people, please, so that we have an equal distribution.
More minutes to see. I see 12 people are not yet in a room. So let's.
A good, fruitful discussion. So I just, I'm of course very interested to everything you have said. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to have like a very long discussion on everything you discussed on, you agreed on, maybe you did not agree on. So important to know is that we will use your answers, use your discussions as a basis for a paper. We'll explain a bit later. But for now, I just wanted to ask the 3 different reporters. So in each room, we had appointed a reporter to tell me what was their like main insight they gained from the discussion. And then later on, we'll see how we can take it from there in the paper. Also ask for statements from you, from the participants. So you also will have a say in how we process this deep dive. But so maybe let's turn to the stakeholder management group. If not mistaken, Martin, you are the reporter there. Can you have 3 minutes to enlighten us on,
Yeah, I think we first identified that when we discuss stakeholders, there are more or less 2 groups of stakeholders. One is the people who want to organize the PED, and then there are also people who should be supposed to participate in that in the end. And I think it's good to keep those 2 apart, and they probably need a different approach. We discussed about the organization of the PED, the governance, and whether the legal form of PED. We discussed about the size of a PED and whether a bigger PED would include more stakeholders. But we didn't reach a conclusion at that because also many small PEDs could have the same big set of stakeholders. And we identified that engaging in a PED gives a kind of new relation between the participants, a dependency towards others. And we said that maybe that is not wanted by everybody, and maybe not everybody has the capabilities to participate in that. And let me see.
Martin, we lost you. Your sound is off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I was not saying, I was just thinking. So let me see, but there is. Yeah, we discussed about the framework for. We said that most of us were educated as consumers, and that participating in a PED requires different behavior. And we realized we don't have a good framework to make people from consumers to prosumers or PET participants or active consumers, whatever you want. And that is difficult, and it's good to find that framework. And last but not least, we had an offer that one of the projects, I noted the name Gerno, but I don't know the project, but there were media formats and event formats which happened to be quite successful in the project, and they could be shared. And that's all I took.
Okay, thank you, but that's already quite a lot, I must say. So, yeah. Okay, then let's move to the breakout room on inclusion. Laura, can you share your main insights?
Yes, it was a very lively discussion. We started discussing why we should try to include all different lifestyles and urban styles. And there are, of course, different motivation. Of course, the issue of justice is a core issue, and empowering people and democratization of energy was raised. It was also raised the issue of smooth running of the project. Constructing dialogue and motivating people that might be difficult because and also challenge the projects in different dimensions. And the second question was how to try to involve them and to involve all those different variety of lifestyles. And of course, how would depend on the specific challenges and the specific situation we face, because also we were talking about economic leverages, which might be on principle more closer to the life, to the perception of people, but it might not always work. It's a point. We raise also the issue of the jargon we use, of the kind of of the way we frame the issue when we discuss with people. Of course, we should try to connect to everyday practices and to make them understand that the project can really touch their life and make it better. But the motivations and the specific leverages may be different. And of course, we might know that conflicts may remain because, of course, perspective and may remain very different from different stakeholders. And what is an obstacle for one might be a solution for the other. And but anyway, through navigating and understanding the perception and motivation of different people, we may try to find a good leverage for the differences and the different lifestyles, which are all in the same neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Then let's turn to the reporter for the social justice table. Nicolas, that's you.
Yeah, so again, we also had a very interesting discussion around social justice. It was quite practical. I mean, we started describing how social justice is a concept that can feel a bit disconnected for most people, and how it's really, in reality, a lot of people feel issues like we talked a bit about energy poverty, for example, which are very important to them. But when you come in with these large concepts like social justice, they might feel disconnected to it. So we need to find ways maybe also to talk about social justice in a way that is approachable and that people understand and connect with the real needs and aspects. And then we moved on to talk a lot more like practical aspects. I mean, we talked a lot about different actors and what their motivations are or are not to engage with social justice issues, also with PEDs in general. We talked about a lot about energy companies and like how, energy companies maybe were not incentivized to sort of work on social justice issues, but that now maybe there's been a change also in recent years because they see also more the importance of PEDs and also those good quality of life aspects that come with it in terms of like maybe their appearance and their PR. And then one last point that I found really interesting was also related to building companies and how there was a point about how building companies maybe they feel like they're not so interested in energy production necessarily. They're more because they find actually that behavioral change, or not behavioral change, but like feedback, for example, giving people more information, empowering them to take more control of their energy consumption. So these more soft measures reach the same, if not more, of an impact on energy than these technical interventions sometimes. So that was an insight from Aalborg, which was really nice. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. This looked like three very interesting discussions. Also a lot to work further on, I can imagine. So I hope you take these discussions also to your projects, but also as the ESF, we'll work a bit further on the insights you shared with us. And so as a follow-up, we have my presentation needs to work. Okay. Also with the ESF, and we want to follow up on this by writing a short paper reflecting on the issue of stakeholder mobilization, organization, management, and their link with social justice. So the topic we discussed today, try to bring a bit together all the different activities going on there. And I've heard like lots of different things going on today, but also some of the points you made during the discussions, and come to a certain sort of position paper on this. So what will be the next steps towards that paper is that the reporters we just heard now, they will write a short summary, a short text on the discussion in their breakout rooms, which can serve as a base for that paper. There will be then, of course, a round of some editing and feedback, perhaps in a first phase, mainly between ESF members, between the DUT coordination team. And when we think it is, we have this paper, which is interesting to share, we will circulate the draft paper. We will not only circulate it to the projects, because of course we're interested in the meaning of the projects for this. So we'll ask from each of the projects, like if this is according to us, the position we're now, the position we also take as the DUT and an ESF on this aspects of social justice and stakeholder management. What is your thought on this? So please, can you ask a short statement also coming from your practice? So we will not only ask this to the projects, but we also want to come back to you. So if everything goes according to plan, at the end of March, early April, we will be able to send you this draft paper, and we will invite you to reflect on what is in the paper, ask you for short statements, and we also hope then we are planning to include these statements as well as part of the paper. So, everything we've done today is not just for nothing. We're really working towards collecting all your insights. And of course, as we will repeat this for the other deep dives as well, do something similar at the end, I think we will get a very good overview of where we stand with all this PED research within the DUT. So that was already part of the wrap-up, you could say, but now like the real wrap-up. This was the end of the deep dive on stakeholder engagement and social justice, but it is not the end of the series. So as Annelies already mentioned, we're not even halfway the deep dive series. The next one is on the 6th of March, but maybe Martin, you are co-organizing the next session. Can you, in one sentence, describe what it's going to be about?
Yeah, we will talk about digital twins to support the PEDs and also decision tools, whether or not digital. And we will again ask some projects on the floor who can bring a contribution. And we are now in the process of defining sensible questions to have a discussion on those two topics.
Okay, great. Christophe, I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, just to add to that, so looking forward to the next one, which is quite a different topic. just, I mean, we're not a big group now anymore, but please share among your project partners as well, because not for every topic the same persons will be equally interested. So this is really for anyone in the projects who feels they could would like to contribute to a topic. So please share. And the other thing, just in the short run, I guess I will do that because the contacts are all with me. I will send out the presentation from today and also the link to the recording. It is not a public link, but so please don't spread it, as we didn't really agree on on making it public. But it's internally, of course, for all the projects usable. Again, I just want to reinforce. I think these thematic exchanges could be really worth also to kind of more publicly sharing them. But maybe, yeah, I need to ask it in a different way probably, because it was really super relevant. Yeah, so that's the next steps from my side. Thank you.
Okay, great. So you will hear from Christoph on the next deep dives, but also on the results of this one, as indeed he has the contacts. And then finally, we are also very eager to know what you thought of this session, so we can also improve the next ones. So we would like to ask you if you could fill in a little questionnaire as an evaluation. On Menti, you can do this by scanning the QR code on this screen, or you can go to menti.com and then give this code here on the screen. I will return to this slide, but I also would just like to thank you for today, for sharing all your thoughts, sharing all your insights, and we look, of course, forward to see you on our next thematic deep dive. So with this, I say goodbye, but I'll show the Mentimeter slide for you to go to the evaluation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye. See you next time.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Andros, Dieter, Ensa, do you have a minute?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I leave or should I stay?
Should I stay or should I go?
You can leave, but you can stay.
No, maybe you
Yeah,
can stay to
I think
prepare
it's
for the
good.
next one. That
Yeah,
would be nice.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, let's keep it short because
Yeah.
it was long.
Yeah.
But good.
Yeah,
We're still recording, by the
you
way.
see
I don't know.
yeah, you can
I
see
don't know
quite
if
enough
That's always a problem.
participants, no?